This April, those women were anxiously waiting for a verdict in their sex harassment case against Rouse.
It's been an uphill battle the whole time.
Meanwhile, the jurors were going over what they'd heard at trial. Charges of how store manager Roger Mishowick abused the women who worked for him.
I had to catch my breath a couple times listening.
John Adair was the jury foreman.
As you're sitting there in the jury, and you hadn't come to any conclusions because you hadn't heard the other side yet, what were you thinking as you heard these stories?
I want to hear Ralph's side of the story.
The case now centered on Ralph's response to Mishowick's conduct. He'd been dropped from the lawsuit since he didn't have much money. But Adair says he never heard a good explanation for why Ralph didn't take stronger action.
Here was their defense. We have a sexual harassment policy.
We think it's a bad thing.
That was the defense. They can't say they condoned it, but they certainly permitted it because they were aware of this action and didn't step in to stop it.
This was actually the second trial in the women's lawsuit. In 1998, another jury found Rouse guilty of allowing the harassment to occur and ordered it to pay the women $500,000 for emotional distress plus $3.3 million in punitive damages. But Rouse got that big punitive award thrown out, forcing this second trial. Now John Adair and the new jury had to decide how much Rouse would pay.
Everyone had seen and heard pretty much the same thing. The only difference, I think, was in the dollar amount.
On April 5th, after a day and a half of deliberations, the jury came to a verdict. It was stunning. The judgment was 10 times bigger than the first time around.
A jury has awarded 6 local women more than $30 million in a sexual harassment lawsuit against...
That's right, $30 million. One of the largest awards in a sex harassment case in U.S. history. Ralph's decision to seek a new trial had backfired badly.
They believed us. They believed us. That's all I could think about. And I was overjoyed.
But for all the joy, Peggy and the others still had some unfinished business.
You'd think that the women who brought this lawsuit would view a $30 million judgment as final vindication for all they'd been through. But you'd be wrong. Because as soon as this trial was over and those jurors left this courtroom, the women and their lawyers had a surprise for them.
People started to congregate in the hallways, and we were handed a packet.
Inside the packet was a letter from the women's attorney. Despite the huge award, it said, the women believe a fraud was perpetrated on this jury. Attached was information alleging a 15-year reign of terror by Mishowick. Case after case of other women who said Mishowick mistreated them. Evidence the judge wouldn't let the jury hear.
I just think they should know. By them knowing that, maybe they'll sleep better knowing, yes, we did do the right thing.
It all started here in 1985 at the Ralph store in La Mesa, California. 2 workers say they complained to management about Mishowick's conduct.
Called me a dirty Mexican, said I was stupid.
In a sworn deposition, Elvia Chandler described how Mishowick threw a heavy file folder that cut her leg.
I picked up the folder, and there was a chunk of meat about this deep and about that long in the corner of it. And that was my leg.
By 1992, Mishowick was managing this store in San Diego. 8 women here said they complained about him.
An African-American lady that was having trouble pronouncing Roger Mishowick's name, when asked, "How do I pronounce your name, sir?" and he turned to her and said, "You could call me Yeza, boss."
In 1995, Mishowick went to Escondido, where the 6 women who filed the lawsuit worked. During the trial, despite all the alleged prior incidents, Ralph's claimed headquarters never knew of any problems with Mishowick before then. But even after he was transferred yet again in 1996 to manage another store in Mission Viejo, the complaints kept coming. One woman said Mishowick threw a 40-pound mailbag at her. All told, over 15 years at 6 stores, a total of 24 women said they were targets of Mishowick's abusive behavior and victims of Ralph's failure to respond.
Now it was just blatant disregard for human dignity. At that point, $30 million obviously, to me, fell short. They needed a whooping, and they got a spanking.
We will not allow anyone to be harassed for any reason.
Joseph Pickler is CEO of the $50 billion Kroger company, Ralph's parent corporation, and the nation's largest supermarket chain. Pickler says he believes the accusations against Mishowick are true.
I thought it was outrageous. I condemn it.
Kroger acquired Ralph's in 1999, long after the events in Escondido. But Pickler decided to pursue the appeal that Ralph's had filed after the first trial.
If you found Mishowick's conduct so outrageous, if you condemned it, why did you fight these women in court?
The appeal was already underway at the time that we bought Ralph's. We attempted to settle it, and the plaintiffs rejected our offer, so we were forced to litigate the case.
You were forced to litigate?
Of course.
By the time Kroger took over Ralph's, Mishowick had been demoted to working on a loading dock. But given Kroger's zero-tolerance policy, we wondered why he was allowed to stay on the job another 14 months. Pickler says Mishowick was protected by a labor contract that prevented firing him for past conduct.
Do you know what Mishowick did during that year plus that he was working now for you?
I know what he did, yes.
Pickler said he didn't want to discuss Mishowick's personnel file, but we had obtained a copy of a letter Ralph sent Mishowick in 2000, with page after page of new allegations.
According to your own investigation, he continued to throw things at people, he continued to swear,
and we suspended
he continued to make sex-based insults, race-based insults, to touch people.
And we suspended him.
And how long did it take you?
Because 14 months, and we suspended him.
Well, do you think that's fast enough, sir?
As soon as we had that case, we suspended him. I can guarantee you that.
After his suspension, Mishowick decided to quit. But a lawyer for the women told us Ralph's could have moved against him much sooner than it did. As for Mishowick, he was defiant to the very end. In his resignation letter obtained by Primetime, Mishowick said, "While I may have become angry on occasion, it was not in any undue fashion."